To one and all. Today we will discuss about this passenger car unit topic. That means this is the one of the topic in transportation engineering. The major purpose of this passenger car unit is to study the traffic volume studies and parking studies and all other studies are related to this passenger car units. That means when we have to survey a particular quantity in a transportation engineering, all the quantity is associated with this PCUs. Why? Because we are studying the vehicles which are traveling on a road, so that for every vehicle we are having a particular quantity of units. When we go to this engineering mechanics and strength of materials, we are having some quantity of units to a particular member, so that we are having volume, density, and load we are having kilonewtons, and stress we are having newton per mm square. Likely in transportation engineering, all we are using these cars and other vehicles, so that for each and every vehicles we are have to denote with a particular quantity or any other value, so that this PCU is useful to the denoting a particular quantity to a vehicle, so that we need to know about this PCU. The traffic of India and many developing countries of the world is heterogeneous in nature. That means here we are having heterogeneous. Normally, we need to know about this homogeneous and heterogeneous. Homogeneous means all the particles are having same properties. Then we call it as a homogeneous. If all the particles are not homogeneous, means the particles having different properties according to their nature and their bodies and other things, so that it is called as a heterogeneous. Likely here we are having the traffic of India and many developing countries. That means in the world itself we are having a different number of countries. That means different number of countries. In those different number of countries, they are developing different rules in terms of traffic. For suppose in America we have to go in the direction of left, so that they are having their steerings in the left of the particular car or any other vehicle, so that their rules are entirely different to our country. Why? Because they are having some different layouts, so that all the countries are not having same quantity of rules and same kind of rules, so that each and every country having different rules and regulations according to their people behavior. And that means the quantity of people and their surrounding conditions and atmospheric conditions and other different factors are acting on those particular rules and regulations. Likely in our India we are having some quantity of rules and obstructions in the transportation engineering, so that we have to follow those obstructions. Why? Because we are living in this particular country, so that we need to face all those obstructions and we have to obey those. Second one we are having is the available road surface is occupied by different classes of vehicles. That means classes of vehicles means these classes comes under class A, class B, class C, class D. Like we are having a two-wheeler vehicle, four-wheelers, and large carrying vehicle, that means load carrying vehicles, and these pedestrians and animal driven vehicles. All those are different classes of vehicles with widely varying static characteristics and dynamic characteristics. That means static means their size, static means, and dynamic means their movement. That means two wheeler having a particular quantity of speed and four wheeler having some particular quantity of speed, and animal driven vehicles having some quantity of speed, so that each and every vehicle having certain static characteristics. That means when they park in a particular position, they will occupy some quantity of area, so that comes under this static characteristics. And dynamic characteristics means when they are moving on a particular road, so that they are having some quantity of these dynamic characteristics, so that we have to understand those different concepts. And the next one we are having is the vehicles that share some roadway include. That means the all these vehicles some that share some same road. That means Whenever there is animal run vehicle or two-wheeler or four-wheeler or large carrying vehicle, means load carrying vehicles, all those have to travel in a particular single route. That means the classes of vehicles are different, but their transporting medium is single. That means there is a different classes, but all those classes has to travel in a single route. It means either it is a BT route or CC road. First one, motorized vehicles. What are the motorized vehicles? Already we discussed in the first chapter. Before Romans and other different restrictions were having, before Romans were all we are having these animal driven vehicles. After industrialization and these motors are driven and motors are introduced into the particular world of we're having a different quantities of vehicles, so that the totally vehicles are mainly classified according to their nature. Motored vehicles and non-motored vehicles. Such as motor vehicles, we are having a plenty of examples like cars, trucks, light commercial vehicles, motorized two-wheelers, auto rickshaws, and nowadays we are having these e vehicles. That means those are charging vehicles. Those are e vehicles. Those are also comes under this motorized vehicles. Why? Because they are using some quantity of electric power with respect to batteries and simply moving, so that they are also comes under these motorized vehicles. Next one, we are having non-motorized vehicles like pedal cycles. There is no any motors in that particular vehicle. Only we have to apply a physical force. That means force which was used by a normal human being. So that those pedal cycles, rickshaws, and hand carts. Olden days, a person is persons are used these hand carts. In in English movies, mainly we have to observe these hand carts and bullock carts and horse-driven vehicles. Those are also have to apply a animal force. In previous vehicles, they have to apply a human force, but in case of these bullock carts and horse-driven vehicles, animal force is applied to particular vehicles. All those are different classes of vehicles. Mainly, we are having two kinds of classification: motorized vehicles and non-motorized vehicles. Motorized vehicle means the vehicle which is having these motors and other artificial equipments to drive those. Those are motorized vehicles. Non-motorized vehicle means to have to use our physical force onto a particular vehicle. Those are non-motorized vehicles. And here we are observing static characteristics and dynamic characteristics. Static means when the vehicle is parked on a particular space, those is the static characteristics. That means the length of the vehicle and the breadth of the vehicle. Next, dynamic characteristic means the moving. When the vehicle is moving, how much speed it was obtaining for a particular hour or particular minute. So that kilometer per hour or meter per second. Those can be the dynamic characteristics of a vehicle. Apart from all of these, driver behavior of the different vehicles can also be found by very considerable. That means a part of this driver behavior of the different vehicle classes is also found to very considerable. That means driver characteristics. Whenever the driver means a simply driver means who drives a vehicle, those are called as the drivers. For two-wheelers or four-wheelers or large vehicles, different kinds of vehicles having different drivers and their licenses, so that all those drivers having different characteristics while they are driving a particular quantity of vehicles. Why? Because with respect to their lying position to the ground level. That means if it is a two-wheeler, there may be some amount of height from the particular ground level. If it is a four-wheeler like cars and others, they have to stay a particular amount from the ground level. Likely different vehicles having different positions with respect to ground level, so that the driver behavior will also be changes with respect to their vision and hearing of noises. Likely different characteristics also applicable on those drivers. Next one, therefore, mixed traffic flow characteristics are very much complex when compared to homogeneous traffic. That means homogeneous traffic. Previously, we observed here homogeneous and heterogeneous. Already I explained in the first point. Heterogeneous in nature means different characteristics. Here also we are having homogeneous traffic. That means homogeneous traffic we will observe in railways. Why? Because in the railways we are having totally same kind of vehicles are moving on those rails. That means all the vehicles are trains only. There is no other vehicle traveling on those particular railway station. Those kind of traffic we will observe in only railways, but in case of these roadways we have to face a different quantities of vehicles. That means with respect to number, quantity means quality means with respect to parameter. So that in the homogeneous traffic means only same kind of vehicle is moving on a particular surface, then it is called as a homogeneous traffic. If there is a different kinds of vehicles moving on a particular surface means it is a heterogeneous traffic. Whenever we are moving on a particular road we have to face a different quantities of vehicles flowing along with us, so that we need to have some vision while we are traveling. On left direction what kind of vehicle is coming, on right direction what kind of vehicle is flowing, on back of us what is the vehicle chasing, and in front of us what is the vehicle, what is the length, what is the width, all those parameters we need to mind. Why? Because we need to have to move along with those, so that we have to face all those conditions. It is difficult to estimate traffic volume capacity of roadway. It means all the vehicles are same, then it is easy to count. That means 1 2 3 4 likely we have to count as easy as possible. But in case of a mixed traffic, that means a huge number of variety of vehicles are flowing on a particular road. It is not possible to identify how many number of vehicles are going, what is their capacities, lengths and widths, so that we have a we have to use a particular quantity with respect to vehicle, so that we need to give this unit to a particular vehicle. That means we need to have some specialized unit, so that auto having some quantity of value, next bicycle having some quantity of value, and lorry having some quantity of value, so that each and every vehicle which was introduced to the particular traffic, so that those have to give a quantity to the vehicle. So that quantity was the passenger car unit. So that a two wheeler how many passengers are flowing, so that what is the passenger car unit for two wheeler, likely four wheeler how many numbers of vehicle, number of persons will be traveled using this four wheeler according to the vehicle capacity and their dimensions. We need to have to give this PCUs. Different vehicle classes are converted to this common standard vehicle unit. This common standard vehicle unit is the our PCU today's topic. Therefore, it is a common practice to consider the passenger car as standard vehicle unit. To convert all other vehicle classes into a unit is called PCUs. Means we are having a number of quantities of vehicles. Why? Because according to their class of journey, and according to their daily wages. That means some of the people having huge amount of salaries, few people having a less quantity of salaries, so that according to their salaries and daily wages and their earnings and needs, different persons has to travel with different mediums of vehicles. Some of the persons are simply going with these public vehicles. That means simply buses and other utilities, autos and others. Why? Because they are having some less quantity of money, and some of the persons having their own vehicles, simply these are like two wheelers and others. Some of the persons having four wheelers as their own, so that each and every individual persons having some individual quantity of money with respect to their jobs and other political or family purposes, so that they are using a different quantities of vehicles in our society, so that according to those usages level, that means per person usage level, we need to classify those vehicles into this quantity, and we need to calculate total how many number of units are there, so that we need to give this passenger car unit to a particular vehicle, so that depending upon the dimensions and seating capacities, we need to give this passenger car unit. Next one, the total volume of the mixed traffic flow, such as different types of a highway in rural areas and roads in urban areas, are expressed in terms of PCU. That means per hour or per lane or width or PCU per hour in the entire roadway. That means we are having different kinds of roads. Uh, Different kinds of roads means we are having normally these expressways. In those expressways we are having a vehicle speed of 120 kilometers per hour, so that all the vehicles has to move with a same speed in these expressways. Likely we are having different kinds of roads: national highways, state highways, and major district roads, other district roads, village roads, and normal interconnecting places, so that these vehicles has to move in a different places with different velocities and different volumes, so that we need to have to multiply those vehicles. Whenever we want to construct a particular road from one place to another place, we need to have some quantity of data. Why? Because we have to calculate how many number of vehicles are simply moving from one place to another place by using these origin and destination studies, so that in that particular area we are having this n amount of vehicles to traveling from one place to another place, so that for that n number of vehicles we are having this m quantity of roads. Likely we have to denote those different quantities. For those calculation we need to require this PCUs. Why? Because some of the persons are using these two wheelers, some of the persons are using four wheelers, so that we need to give a particular number, so that they are according to their occupancy and usage. When we have to calculate according to, we won't have to get a particular number. Why? Because we are having a plenty of vehicles, so that we need to get a particular number means we need to convert all those vehicles into a particular factor. That means we need to give a factor to two wheeler. That means if the total quantity of two wheelers is some 100, we need to multiply those 100 with a factor. And after that we are having four wheelers quantity as 50, so that those 50 we need to multiply with some amount of number, so that when we are having a different quantities of vehicles we need to multiply those different quantities of vehicles with different numbers, so that we need to add all those numbers, we will get a single number with respect to this PCU, so that according to that PCU we need to design a particular road. What is the major concept of this PCU value? That means how this PCU value was developed according to these concepts, different concepts. The PCU may be considered as a measure of the relative space requirement of a vehicle class compared to that of a passenger car under specified set of roadway, traffic and other conditions. That means this PCU value may be considered as a measure of relative space requirement of a vehicle. The first point they are telling is the space requirement. That means two wheeler is simply moving on a particular roadway, so that it will occupy some 3.1 meter by, that means simply a 6 or 7 feet by 2 feet distance, so that it is a particular area occupied by a two wheeler. Likely we are having four wheeler, so that four wheeler will occupy a particular quantity of space on a roadway. Likely different vehicles having different occupancies on that surface, so that we need to calculate all those occupancy levels by using this space requirement. That means whenever there is a movement of particular quantity of vehicles on a road, so that we need to have to use this space. That means we are having a city with 1,000 people. I will explaining with the terms of example. That means total number of people equal to 1,000. In those 1,000 people we are having vehicles equal to simply 300, so that 300 vehicles also we are having different classifications. All those 300 vehicles are in the same means we need to have some single value. If there is different means we need to have to use different quantities of values, so that this PCU value is developed according to number of vehicles uses. specified roadway, we have to use different standards for different quantities of vehicles. In addition to one vehicle of a particular class in a traffic stream produce the same effect as the due to the addition of all the one passenger car. దట్ మీన్స్ నార్మల్గా మనం ఒక సిటీస్లో కానివ్వండి ఎక్కడైనా కానివ్వండి డిఫరెంట్ వెహికల్స్ని మనం యూటిలైజ్ చేస్తూ ఉంటాం. ఒక్కొక్క వెహికల్ యొక్క స్పేస్ అనేది మనకి ఒక్కొక్కలాగా ఉంటుంది. కాబట్టి మనం ఎప్పుడైనా కానివ్వండి ఈ ఒక రోడ్డు మీద మనం ఒక రోడ్ యొక్క డైమెన్షన్స్ అనేవి మనం బిఫోర్ గోయింగ్ టు కన్స్ట్రక్ట్ ఏ పర్టికులర్ రోడ్ వీ నీడ్ టు హ్యావ్ టు denote the particular length of the road and width of the road, so that before going to denote this length and width we need to have this data with respect to their areas of occupancy, so that we need to have this passenger car unit for the occupancy level. So whenever there is a traffic jam on a particular space, if the road width is so low, means automatically the vehicles will occupy for a large span of length, so that we need to have some quantities of lengths and widths and thickness of a particular pavement. All those depends upon this PCU values we are calculating. Passenger car, as the passenger car value is equal to normally 1 for a normal car. This PCU value of a particular vehicle class may be considered as the ratio of capacity of the roadway when there is a one passenger cars only to the capacity of same roadway when there is vehicles of that class only. That means this PCU value మనకి ఎలా క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేస్తారంటే పర్టికులర్ వెహికల్ క్లాస్ మే బి కన్సిడర్ యాజ్ ద రేషియో ఆఫ్ కెపాసిటీ ఆఫ్ ద రోడ్వే. దట్ మీన్స్ రేషియో మీన్స్ some value to some value. That means two values are simply we are having to divide with 1 to 1. That is the ratio. Multiplication means we need to multiply the two values. Dividing means simply we are dividing one to another, x by y or y by z or z by anything, so that we will get this ratio. Capacity of roadway when there is passenger cars only to the capacity of the same roadway there are vehicles of that class only. That means మనకి ఎక్కడైనా కానివ్వండి రోడ్లో ఓన్లీ ఒక కైండ్ ఆఫ్ వెహికల్స్ మాత్రమే ఉంటే కనుక మనం దాని యొక్క కెపాసిటీని క్లాస్గా మనం నిర్ధారిస్తూ ఉంటాం. దట్ మీన్స్ వెన్ ఎవర్ దెర్ ఈజ్ ఏ సింగిల్ యూనిట్స్ ఆఫ్ వెహికల్, దట్ మీన్స్ ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈజ్ ఏ city, the city having major quantity of two wheelers, so that for that city we need to give two wheeler having a quantity 1. If there is a huge quantity of four wheelers, so that we need to give four wheeler to 1. Likely whatever the city we are having, so that if we are city having what amount of vehicles has high, so that those vehicles has to prefer the PCU value. That means నార్మల్గా మనకి విలేజెస్లో ఎక్కువగా ఈ యొక్క ట్రాక్టర్స్ ఉంటాయి, ఎక్కువగా ట్రాక్టర్స్ అండ్ సెకండరీ వీఆర్ హ్యావింగ్ దిస్ టూ వీలర్స్ అండ్ అదర్స్, సో దట్ మనకి ఏదైతే క్వాంటిటీ ఎక్కువగా ఉందో ఆ క్వాంటిటీకి మనం ఈ పీసీయూ వాల్యూ ముందుగా ప్రిఫర్ చేస్తూ ఉంటాం. నెక్స్ట్ వాల్యూకి మనం నెక్స్ట్ వాల్యూని ప్రిఫర్ చేస్తూ ఉంటాం. లైక్లీ వాట్ ఎవర్ ద వాల్యూ వీఆర్ హ్యావింగ్ హై వాల్యూ, దోస్ విల్ బి ప్రిఫర్డ్ యాజ్ ద ఫస్ట్ వాల్యూ ఫర్ PCU. This also will varies. Normally according to villages we are having one kind of PCU values. In cities we are having another kind of PCU values. Why? Because their usage level. That means normally cities having high urbanized areas, so that major quantity of the people are using these two wheelers and four wheelers, so that we are having a PCU values for firstly we have to give for these two wheelers, after we have to give for four wheelers. Why? Because a huge quantity of middle class persons are lying on the cities. After that there are some few quantity of these rich people, so that their usage level of these cars and others, all those depends upon this PCU values and their usage value of the road. PCU value depends upon the several factors. Next one, such as dimensions of the vehicle, such as width and the length. If the vehicular usage having different values, that means in the two wheelers also we are having different lengths. That means normally Splendor we are having, after that Pulsar we are having, after that Royal Enfield, likely KTM. Different vehicles having different features and different dimensional factors, so that those are also depends upon this PCU value. Dimension of the vehicle such as width and length. Normally Splendor having some quantity of less width compared to all remaining vehicles, and it will give huge amount of mileage. So that different vehicles having different spatial parameters, that means length of the vehicle and width of the vehicle will vary from one kind of vehicle to another kind of vehicles in two wheelers only. Likely even in four wheelers also we are having a different vehicles, likely this Swift, and next to Mahindra we are having next Mahindra. After that we are having Tata. Likely we are having different cars. In those also we are having different features, so that their dimensions also changes. Innova, we are having Innova is a quantity of large span, and next one we are Bolero, we are having likely different vehicles having different dimensional parameters also, so that this PCU value also depends upon those dimensions. First of all we need to give to the number, after that we need to give to this dimension. Dynamic characteristics of the vehicle such as power, speed, acceleration and braking. After the we have to choose what amount of dynamic characteristics, means normally flow parameters. Dynamic means flow means simply moving. Whenever a body is moving, those parameters are simply called as these dynamic parameters, such that we are having a vehicle with a different flow characteristics. That means few vehicles has to having a flow capacity of 60 kmph. After that the vehicle can't flow, and few vehicles having to obtain these 100 kilometers also, likely in two wheelers only. We're having different speed depending upon their companies and features and their motors, such that we are having different characteristics of a vehicle, so that it also depends upon this PCU value. Next one, transverse and longitudinal gaps of the clearance between moving vehicles, which will depends upon the speed of the driver characteristics and vehicle classes at the adjoining spaces. That means transverse and longitudinal gaps. Whenever the vehicle is simply moving at a particular cross sections, that cross sections means simply the vehicle has to change from one lane to another lane. When the vehicle is changing means automatically it has to obtain some quantity of angle with the road. I will show the diagram. It is a particular road. That means the vehicle has to move. It means when the vehicle has to move in a particular way, so that the adjacent vehicle, here we are having one vehicle, here we are having one another vehicle, so that those two vehicles has to face some quantity of uncomfortable while the vehicle is moving, so that it also depends upon this PCU value. That means whenever we are traveling along with lorries and other load carrying vehicles, we have to face some quantity of some quantities of these problems, like this horn and side distance and other adjacent spaces while the vehicles are moving. And if there is a one lane, automatically we have to face a huge quantity of speed restriction to the back vehicles. All those are comes under this transverse and longitudinal gaps and clearance. Okay, this is the dip factors depends upon this PCU, that means passenger car units. Likely we are having cars having one kind of PCU, vehicles have another. Next one, bikes having one kind of PCU. Next one, lorries and other buses we are having one kind of PCU, depends upon these parameters, dimension of the vehicle, such that car having one dimension, bike having one dimension. In the bikes itself we are having different dimensions depending upon scooty and scooty pept. And after that we are having these Honda shines, like different vehicles we are having. All those vehicles having different structural parameters according to lengths and widths. Automatically we are having cars also and lorries also. Lorries also we are having normally 6 tire lorries and 10 tire lorries and 14 tire lorries and 20 tire lorries also having, so that according to those conditions of the, that means their aerial conditions, we have to give a particular PCU value to the vehicle. And the factors affecting PCU value, after that we are having these traffic stream characteristics such as composition of different vehicle classes. Here we are using traffic stream characteristics. That means traffic stream means normally we are having యూజింగ్ వెన్ మనకి వంతెనలు వాటిని మనం స్ట్రీమ్స్ అంటూ ఉంటాం. నదులు లేకపోతే చిన్న చిన్న కాలువల్ని మనం వీఆర్ రిప్రజెంటింగ్ విత్ దిస్ లెటర్ స్ట్రీమ్. లైక్లీ హియర్ వీఆర్ యూజింగ్ దిస్ ట్రాఫిక్ స్ట్రీమ్ మీన్స్ the flow having different quantities of vehicles with different sizes, so that here we are using this traffic stream characteristics such as composition of different vehicle classes. That means n number of these buses and x number of cars and z number of bikes, likely different streams of vehicles, that their mean speeds also changes, mean speed and speed distribution of the mixed traffic stream, so that we are having these rickshaws and autos having one kind of this flow, and next one cars having one kind of flow, likely it is a mixed traffic, so that in the mixed traffic also itself we are having different kinds of vehicles with different vehicular speeds, volume capacity ratio, and next one occupancies on the particular road. Next one, road characteristics. What are the road characteristics means, such as road geometrics. What is geometry means? Simply the length of the road and width of the road. If there is a curve means automatically gradient of the road and particular length of the curve, likely we are observing the horizontal curves and vertical curves in the second chapter, geometric design of the particular road, such that different roads having different geometrics depending upon their usage levels. That means if it is a single lane road means automatically that geometry will depends upon 3.75 meters. If it is a two lane road means that automatically it is a 7 meters width, and the length will depends upon the connecting points, and including gradients, curves, axis control, rural or urban roads also, presence of intersections and other type of intersections. All those are the roadway characteristics. First one we are having is the including gradient means simply these gradients are we are maintaining to eliminate whatever the water present in a particular road surface. Why? Because gradients are mainly used for the drainage purpose. That means drainage means simply we need to eliminate whichever the water is coming on a particular road surface, so that they will cause some amount of disturbance to the strata, road strata, and curves. After that we are having, why we have to use these curves means we need to have some quantity of these obstructions we are facing whenever there is a joining of two roads, so that we are using these curves to obstruction those particular vehicles. Next one, axis control. It means axis control means we have to maintain a proper speed along the road. That is the axis control. Rural or urban roads. That means rural roads means normally roads which are laid on a rural part of a particular mandal or district. Next one, urban roads means particular urban area we are having roads. Presence of these intersections and a type of intersections. Intersections means whenever there is a combination of two or more line, we need to have to use these intersections with respect to T junction or Y junction or plus junction or X junction, and pentagonal or hexagonal, heptagonal, likely whenever there is a different kinds of the different numbers of joining lanes. If there is a two lane, automatically we have to use a simple straight line or any other X or V direction. After that we are having these three lanes means definitely we have to go for, I will show with the diagrams. Three lanes means automatically we go for this T junction or means this Y junction. Likely we need to connect those different roads, and this is the X junction, plus junction, and X junction. If it is a if it is a 5 means automatically we have to use these kind of roads. It is a particular junction. Likely we have to use different quantities, pentagonal, hexagonal, heptagonal patterns. Penta means 5 lines, hexa means 6 lines, hepta means 8 lines, octa means 9 lines. Likely we have to use whatever the lines we are having. Next one is regulation and control of traffic, such as speed limit of one way limit and presence of different traffic control devices. Regulation is also important. Why? Because if the regulation is not means automatically the vehicle has to face huge quantity of accidents, so that whenever there is a crossing or particular cross sections, automatically these regulation teams has to do their work. Next one, environmental and climatic conditions. That means environmental and climatic conditions means nowadays we are facing a huge quantity of these rains and other so that we have to face this water effect on those particular road surfaces. Some of the vehicles are simply moving along with the water. Why? Because of there is a poor quantity of drainage facilities in the particular cities. All those will affect these parameters. These are the passenger car units according to IRC as prescribed a particular passenger car units. Okay, these are the different factors. First of all, we are having a motorcycle or scooter having a zero point 0.5. That means whenever we compare with the normal car, in the particular passenger car itself, we are having a word car, so that we need to compare this particular vehicle with the car. Car is a having particular quantity of dimension, so that this motor vehicle and scooter is off to the particular car, so that we have they are giving this 0.5 to the motor vehicle and scooter. After that, we are having this passenger car comma pickup van, auto rickshaws. Likely we are having these auto rickshaws, autos and other things. All those are similar to the particular car. Likely we are having nano car. Also all are those having some equi factors. That means length and width are some kind of equivalence all to all of those, so that the factor is 1. Next one, we are having these agricultural tractors and light commercial vehicles. Light commercial vehicles means normally commercial vehicles are mainly used for the purpose of these transporting goods, and we are having agricultural tractors, so that all are those having some huge quantity compared to car, so that their value is 1.5. Next one, single unit truck and bus. That means those are somewhat high volume compared to those car, so that they are having 3 value. Next one, tractor truck comma agricultural tractors comma trailers, they are having 4.5. All those factors are depending upon the quantity of weight and their size parameters, length and width, when they are placed in a particular position, and their when they are moving on a particular cross sections, they have to use some huge quantity, so that automatically the surrounding vehicles has to face some amount of willingness to move along with those, so that they are having some huge quantity of these factors, 4.5. After that, these bullock carts and hand carts, they are having a huge quantity of these equivalence factors. Why? Because 6.0. After that, large bullock cart 8.0. Why? Because those are not humans, they are animals. Why? Because if the animal is simply moving on a particular road, automatically they doesn't having some traffic sense, so that they simply moving anywhere without having some knowledge, so that they are having this huge importance. Why? Because those are not parked at particular spaces, they need to have some quantity of space for parking those, along with some quantity of to the particular vehicle and some quantity to the particular bulls or any other horses, so that these factors will be also high for those. This is the PCU factors according to IRC 86 1983. That means all those regulations are studied in the year of 1983 and they published in IRC 86 paper. Next one, IRC having some prescribed non-motorized vehicles. All before we have observed all motorized vehicles with respect to all of those, and some of them are small bullock carts and large bullock carts are non-motorized vehicles. But in case of this IRC, we are having all are unmotorized vehicles. First of all, we are having this pedal cycle. This pedal cycle is also with respect to normal scooties and other small two wheelers, so that it is having a equivalence factor of 0.5. After that, cycle rickshaw. That means cycle rickshaw means normally previous days in 1990 to 2008, we are observed these cycle rickshaws. Nearly they are having a PCU value of 2.0. And hand cart, that means those vehicles are operated by a humans. Simply a human is simply pulling those hand carts. They are having a equivalency factor of 3.0. After that, horse drawn vehicles having 4 and bullock carts having 6. large bullock cart also having 8 values. So that all these are non-motorized vehicles. These are motorized vehicles, so that there may be some amount of difference. Motorized vehicles having some less quantity of this PCU, and non-motorized vehicles having some huge quantity of PCU compared to all of those. Okay, you need to observe that clearly. This is the comparison. Whenever there is a huge quantity of traffic stream, how we have to give this PCU value. Already previously in the second slide I explained, if there is a city, in that particular city there is a huge quantity of two wheelers, automatically their PCU value changes. Why? Because all the vehicles are in a same class, so that there will be some amount of mixing, huge quantity of PCUs, and two wheelers and less quantity of these four wheelers, means they have to give some importance to large quantity vehicles, so that all the roads has to be designed according to these two wheelers. If the quantity of two wheelers is high, so that their value will be changes according to their usage. First one, we are having motorcycles and scooters. If there is a 5% stream, automatically the value will be 0.5. 10% and above, that means all the conditions they are having 10% and above, means if there is a 100 quantity of vehicles, in this particular 100 vehicles there is a 5 vehicles, means we have to give a factor of 0.5. It may be more than 10, means we need to give a factor of 0.75 to motorcycles and scooters. Next one, PCU we are having. PCU is normally same in all conditions. Why? Because we are comparing all those units with respect to PCU, so that the PCU having some equi-factor. Equi-factor means some unit factor. We will also call it as unit factor, means normally unit equal to 1.0. Next one, auto rickshaw we are having 1.2 if it is less than 5%. If it is greater than 10%, the value will be equal to 1.2 and 2. After that, light commercial vehicles 1.4 to 2.2, 3.7, agricultural at 4 and 5. Those are the different streams of vehicles of usage in a particular city itself. Previous values are according to Indian standards, but these values are according to city standards whenever there is a huge quantity of vehicles. Okay.